If your literature review currently looks like 63 PDFs, countless post-it notes, and one very overwhelmed PhD researcher, don't worry, you're not doing anything wrong. It just means that your brain is overloaded with information and you're not quite sure where to put it all yet. That's fine, that's expected, that is completely normal for someone doing a PhD literature review. Today, I'm going to teach you 3 simple things you can do to calm the chaos, start getting some structure, and feel in control of your literature review, because that is completely possible, believe me. Let's get into it. One of the biggest reasons why writing a PhD literature review feels completely impossible sometimes is because you're trying to do everything at once. Summarising, analysing, linking theories, identifying gaps, being critical, sounding like you know what you're talking about, and occasionally trying to find the time to eat something. Very quickly, all of that can make the PhD literature review feel absolutely overwhelming. So, how can you start to climb your way out of this chaos hole? Let's get into step 1. If you're writing things like this, Smith 2019 found this, then Rahman 2020 said that, please stop, okay? That can be a useful stage that you pass through, okay? Talking about what an individual author has said in a particular paper. That's great. That shows your understanding. That shows that you're summarising what's there. Brilliant. But that should only really be for your own notes, okay? When you're coming to actually write up your literature review, the literature review that's going to go into your PhD, it needs to look different from that. Good literature reviews have got a structure that's made up of headings. And one of the types of heading that can be used is themes, often known as a thematic or a narrative literature review. Now, there are others, methodological, chronological, but for the purposes of this video, I'm focusing on themes. Let's use an example so you can see what I mean. Imagine your PhD is exploring high school students' experiences of volunteering on environmental projects within their local communities in Los Angeles, California. Now, once you've done your reading, instead of writing author A said this, author B said that, you sort everything into themes, which will include multiple studies underneath headings. And your headings, your themes, they might look something like this: youth identity development, environmental justice and local context, community engagement, barriers to participation, motivation and personal meaning. And then inside each of these headings, these themes, you bring multiple authors into the conversation and you look at what they're saying collectively. So rather than talking about Jones said this, Rahman said that, you're saying the literature on youth identity development contains, for example. This immediately makes your literature review more analytical, more critical, and much easier to write. Before we move on, I want to know, what is the most difficult part of your literature review right now? Organising it, being critical, the sheer volume of reading you've got to do? Tell me in the comments. I read all of them, I try and reply to all of them, and other PhD students will go and look at those comments and see what you've written, and they will probably find it helpful. They will probably find it reassuring, so get down there. Once you've identified some themes, here's how to start writing about them without spiralling. Use this 3-sentence mini structure. Firstly, define the theme. Secondly, discuss what the literature says. And thirdly, explain what it means for your study. Let's go back to our Los Angeles volunteering example. Say one of your themes is environmental volunteering as identity development. Let's take a look at sentence number 1, where you define the theme. So you briefly explain that this theme focuses on studies exploring whether and how involvement in environmental volunteering influences young people's identities. Sentence number 2, when you're discussing the literature, here you're bringing together findings from different studies. Perhaps you're discussing research showing that volunteering increases young people's confidence or their connection to place and civic responsibility. In sentence number 3, we're moving on to look at what that means for your study. So here, you're connecting this to your project. By following this structure, you are building critical analysis into what you're doing. Now this one is the step that most people skip, but it's what makes your literature review structure really coherent. Before you start writing about every major theme, every major heading, add a roadmap sentence like this. This section explores 3 key debates around youth volunteering: identity development, community belonging, and barriers to participation. It is important to consider this because this does 3 things. It keeps you on track, it keeps your reader on track, and it helps you establish, whilst you're writing, whether this theme really is relevant. Because that sentence starter, it is important to consider this because, forces you to figure out, well, why is this important? Is this important? How is this important? And often when we're writing literature reviews, things just get put into them. We just write things in that we're reading about that we think are going to be important, but we don't take the time to explain why they're important. And when we're kind of forced to do that, often we think, oh, maybe this isn't relevant. Maybe I can leave this out, or maybe this can be part of another theme, or maybe it can play a smaller part than it's currently playing. And this can be so helpful for preventing or at least minimising those what am I even writing crises that we all have when we're doing this kind of work. You're kind of calling out your literature review as you're writing it. You're asking it to explain itself. And when you do that on a regular basis, your literature review will start to behave, okay? It will stop being so naughty. There'll be fewer wandering paragraphs and long streams of consciousness because you will be very clear as to why you are including this particular theme. Popping up on your screen right now is another video you might enjoy if you like this one. It's all about writing a critical literature review, and it goes into a lot more detail than I've been able to do in this video. So if that's of interest, go and check it out. I'll see you in there.